Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Dr. Psych Mom Show. Today, I'm going to be talking about foreplay. I've written about posts about foreplay before, and it seems like this is like the greatest missing piece of the majority of married sex people's sex life. Not married sex people, married people's sex life. I bet more people wish that they were having enough sex to be called married sex people. But anyhow, before we get to that, I'd like to tell you to subscribe because I'm going to be talking about oral sex on women, although possibly not in the manner that you think. And there's a whole podcast on oral sex on women and lots of other podcast episodes that are not free, but that give you a lot of extra intel, about 40 of those so far. And the next one, I'm coming up on another subscriber only, because I do about every 5, I give you a subscriber only one. And also, if you'd like to join my Facebook group, there's lots of people talking about the sorts of things that we talk about here, and it's secret, so you don't have to have your friends and family see if you got some question about your sex life or your relationship or women or men or whatever, that you like crowdsourced by people that read my stuff and that are, generally very supportive and nice people that like to think about these issues. Anyhow, so we're going to talk about foreplay. So as I've discussed in the post that I'll link you to, foreplay is not a big enough part of most married sex people's lives. That was just a joke. Married people's sex lives. So why not? Because people don't know what they're doing. So let me explain why. Women are told not to have a lot of sexual partners. So they don't get enough experience if they listen to that societal mandate. And men are told to sleep with as many women as possible, which leads to a bunch of one-night stands where, as I've repeatedly told you guys, women don't give men feedback on one-night stands. They're barely giving their husbands feedback after years. Why? Again, I mean, let's just go sociologically. Women are taught to be good girls. And so, they don't want to challenge men. And as I've said, they break through this fear in terms of parenting, housework, etc. But the last frontier in which women do not criticize men because they're scared that, his penis is going to drop off or something, is in the bedroom. So ironically, women, and also they have no idea what the hell they're saying because most women have not had a lot of sexual experience. So they just know it's kind of like their sex isn't that great, but they assume maybe there's something wrong with them, or that just sex isn't like the movies, or, maybe it's something with the guy, but they don't really know how to even start telling him. They assume that he's going to curl up in a ball of shame and die if they do tell him. So you see how this can go. It can go so that two people that love each other still have never had a conversation about sex where, like, she literally just says, I do not like X, I want you to do X, because she has no fucking idea what X is. We might as well be talking about calculus in terms of X and how much she knows what it is. And that's not a women and math joke, although I am a woman who's not good at math. It's just a math joke. So anyhow, the point here is that many people have no idea what sex is, what sex could be and how good it could be for them because they've not experimented enough, they've not done any research, and they don't have enough prior partners. As I've also said, the people that are lucky enough to understand how sex works are frequently those who had early partners. So especially in high school and college, especially high school, a lot of women wait to have intercourse, which means that if they have a high school boyfriend, they're doing a lot of heavy petting. And this is when a lot of women figure out what works for their body. And so many, many months, if not longer, of just foreplay really allows a woman to figure out how she could have an orgasm and all of that kind of thing. And it teaches a man how to please a woman. Now, a lot of people have not had these early relationships, or they were in an early relationship, but with a woman who did not give any feedback. So then it's really, they know very little. So if you're a man who thinks that you know very much how to please women, but yet your wife doesn't like to have sex with you, think about it. Does that make any sense? If you were really good at playing the guitar, wouldn't she want to hear you play the guitar more? Probably. There are some men to whom both of these things resonate. And I urge you to think about them both, although your sex life is probably a more compelling thing that you want to work on versus your guitar playing. But yeah, if you're really good at something, somebody's going to want you to do it. So try to think about that really pragmatically. I've written a post about that titled something like, does your wife really like sex? She would want to do it more. I forget, but it was the same point. So anyhow, what is the deficit here? What's going on here that makes most women not want to have that much sex? There's not enough foreplay. Now, many men think that oral sex on women is foreplay. That's not foreplay. Why is that not foreplay? That's sex. Why is it sex? Because you're touching her genitals. Soon as you're touching her genitals, it's sex, okay? Because you're going down on her so she could have an orgasm, I hope. Not just for 2 seconds so that you could get yourself excited and feel like you're in a porno, although there's plenty of guys who do that too. But hopefully you're going down on her to orgasm, which means that she is having sex then. She's having sex with your mouth. So that's sex. That's not foreplay. Foreplay would have to come before that and before any genital touching at all. So for men, genital touching, if she's touching your penis and, because it's a solar eclipse or whatever, it's a joke because a lot of men say that the woman doesn't touch their penis at all, except basically to show him where to put it when it comes time to intercourse. But if you're in a magical moment where your wife is touching your penis, that's foreplay for you. So, but it's not like that for her because that's sex for her. So what is foreplay for a woman? Kissing, stroking, breast stimulation, massage, lots of different things that don't involve her genitals. Don't go to her genitals yet. So if you go to her genitals, you're having sex and you've stopped doing foreplay. You're kind of doing foreplay for you when you're going down on a woman because you're getting really excited. But that means she's having sex and you've not had foreplay. So you may think I'm hammering this home, but it's like a hard point for a lot of people to grasp because a lot of men think it makes them an excellent lover to be doing all this foreplay with oral sex, but that's not foreplay. So if the minute you get into the bed, you do some perfunctory kissing and then you're down there at her vagina, it's really no wonder that she doesn't want to have sex because she's not ready. She's not ready yet to have sex. There has not been foreplay. So therefore, she's not ready for you to touch her vagina. So she has to go into some magical place in her head where she could kind of get this like movie going on loop because she's got to somehow arouse herself because you've not waited long enough for her to become naturally aroused. There are very few women that are going to become aroused in less than, 20, 30 minutes, but yet a lot of encounters in their entirety last less than that. So what this means is that the woman is having an orgasm, but it's like nowhere near the orgasm that she could have if she was actually aroused via foreplay prior to the genital touching. So, of course, a woman, like if a woman wants to with a vibrator, she could have an orgasm in probably 60 seconds, if the thing is on high enough, it could be 30 seconds. But I mean, that's not that doesn't mean that she had a positive sexual experience. And in order to understand that, you just have to literally be a man that feels the same, because this is what women think in the inverse that leads to so many men having sex lives that are not good, is that she thinks that it's all about the orgasm for you. So she thinks that you just want to get off and it's penetration, and if she spreads her legs and you guys start to have sex, you're living your best life. Obviously, you're not living your best life if you're with a starfish, or I recently learned the term pillow princess. I mean, she just lays there like a starfish. But anyway, obviously, if you're a man, that's the majority of the men that I get, and their critiques of their sex life. And what makes them deeply sad is that there is not exploration of one another's bodies, adventure, eroticism, or any real sensuality at all. It's just this really rote intercourse. So she doesn't want that either. But remember, for her, you going down on her instantly is the same thing as if she's like, okay, put it in and hurry up. Because she's then once you start going down on her, she's on the road to orgasm. So there's no more sex. It's just basically you're a vibrator then. And That's it. Like, the show is on the road already, and it wasn't supposed to be on the road yet. And a man can convince himself that the woman is getting really aroused because she's wet. She's wet also, remember, because your mouth is wet. So this is not, I talk about this in the oral sex podcast. Like, this doesn't really mean anything major, the way that guys assume. There's a lot of wet going on, and more of it may be you than her. And of course, you like to think that, and you're getting excited because it's foreplay for you, remember, but not for her. That's sex for her. So you got to figure out what your wife and your husband, if you're a woman listening to this, wants for foreplay. Most people have many erogenous zones that have never been touched by their partner, or possibly by any partner. And in order to figure this out, you need like extensive time. So this means that you're, getting an hour or more for sex. And if you're like, I can't possibly do that, then I urge you to look at all of my child-centered marriage posts forever, because, and especially in the age of telecommuting, it's a rare couple that has children over the age of 1 that can in no way ever get an hour at any time to have sex. I mean, that if you feel like you're in that situation, you're probably not in that situation. There's probably other reasons that you feel like that, including anxiety and or ambivalence about being with your partner. And so either of those could be explored. So let's just say you have an hour, because normally you could find that, most people. In that hour, you should be figuring out what makes each other feel good without genital touching. So we're just talking about foreplay, before, the playing before sex, or oral sex, any sex. So what does that mean? So that means so it could mean for a man that there's going to be more touching of his penis beforehand. For a woman, don't touch her genitals yet, unless this is something that she likes as part of foreplay. But we are not going to orgasm now. That's not the point. The point is not that. The point is to excite the person such that they feel actually ready and like they really want to have sex. Not like they really want to have sex because they didn't have sex in like 12 days, like more married couples are in that situation than is good, but they really want to have sex because there's like an arousal arc, and they're moving along that arc and getting closer and closer to a state where they can more easily orgasm and also really desire sex. So many people don't get there. It goes too quickly from we are in bed to some form of sex. So in the foreplay period, you figure out the erogenous zones of your partner and you touch them all over. And you could take turns doing this, or you could be doing it simultaneously. Massage may be a good thing for before this even starts, especially for women, to make them feel relaxed. So for a woman, an ideal encounter might be a massage and then foreplay for both people for like 30 minutes or more, meaning you are touching and stroking and kissing one another, and her genitals don't get touched at all. And then maybe she wants you to go down on her, and then she wants sex. Or maybe she doesn't want you to go down on her, because so many women don't, and she just wants you to manually stimulate her. Something else that people should learn is how to manually stimulate their wife to orgasm in case she doesn't want oral sex, because so many women don't. A, because you're not good at it, possibly, or B, because they don't want you to be that far away, or they start to get anxious about how they smell or how they feel or whatever, and they would rather you be close to them and kissing and manually stimulating them. Of course, remember, that's not foreplay. That would be sex. As soon as you touch her genitals, that's sex. So if you are a woman and you feel like very sensitive to touch, then you may not have enjoyed foreplay previously because the man's trying to do it. You feel splayed out like a fish that he just caught. The lights are on, the fucking air conditioner is blasting, and he wants all your clothes off immediately. That's not exciting or erotic either, and I discuss this a lot in my 10 Ways to Make Highly Sensitive Women Want Sex a Lot More. So that's my very first podcast, so it's easy for you to find, so you can go back and listen to that. But for many women, if you start with the kissing and the touching and the stroking, even while their clothes are on, they're going to get so excited that they will themselves want the clothes to come off and all of that. And they will start to get excited. You may have actually never seen what your wife looks like when she's very excited. Possibly not in the early stages either, because it's ironic. In the early stages, her hormones were a full blast, but you didn't know her body yet, and she was too scared to tell you what to do because she didn't want to ruin this wonderful blossoming relationship or emasculate you somehow. Now her hormones have receded because she's in the monogamy phase and her libido is lower. And now is when she would really need you to do all of these things that you didn't learn how to do early on. But she doesn't care enough or is too scared to ask you to do it. Because her hormones for all the things that I just said. We don't need to keep saying the same things. So, the point here is that the majority of people are not having the sex life that they could be having. And this doesn't mean that they're not dressing up in enough clothes or doing enough role play. I mean, if you want to do that stuff, cool. But it literally means that the woman especially has no idea what fulfilling sex life could look like, because she's never really been touched long enough to know without her genitals being touched earlier on. And most men would pay good money, and would if it weren't immoral, to have their woman touch anything on their body at all, because the woman feels, because she's not turned on, that she's doing the man a favor, and therefore she doesn't have to really touch him. Plus, women don't understand that men really want that they want to be touched also, like not just to have their penis inserted. Many, many, many women think that is the culmination of everything for a man, is to put his penis into a vagina. It isn't. So if it isn't for you, like for 90% of men, then tell your wife, listen to this podcast together and say, yes, I have been shy to say that I would love to have more foreplay with you. I would love to learn how to touch each other more. I would love to learn how to please one another and not have these short encounters in which, yes, we both have an orgasm, but it's more like a reflex, more like a sneeze than anything positive and connection building that allows us to deeply learn about one another and have the more fulfilling, sexual experience that we would have if we were actually really turned on, So we need the time to do that, to really turn each other on. And again, go back. I cannot say this enough. Go back to the first episode on 10 ways to make your highly sensitive wife want sex a lot more, because increasingly I'm getting feedback that that's not just highly sensitive women. It's all women, or most women. Nothing's all women, but most women. And especially if you took the erotic blueprints quiz that I always tell you to take, and I even have a post about it, if she's a sensual type, she doesn't just want the penis and vagina. She wants a lot of other stuff, but she doesn't know how to tell you. It's like going to a fancy restaurant and being like, oh my God, this is what a hamburger was supposed to taste like, or, like you wouldn't know unless you wouldn't know how to do that yourself or how to tell somebody to cook you something in a really great way. You just know it when you feel it, right? So when you sense it. Or music. You wouldn't know how to tell somebody to make you a perfect symphony, but if you hear one, you know that it's pretty different from listening to your kid play Twinkle Twinkle on the piano. So, it's the same thing with sex. Your wife will know it when she feels it, that there is, and possibly has felt it before, and has never told you that with prior partners or with you earlier on or whatever, she has felt more aroused. She does know what that feels like, but she just doesn't know the ways to tell you to get there. And I'm telling you the ways to get there is by slowing it down and figuring out what other areas on her body and in her brain need to be stimulated. What do you need to say and do and touch in order to turn her on? You may have no idea. You may assume that she has a very low sex drive, but really y'all are just not good at having sex with each other because of all of these myriad societal and individual issues that I'm delineating here. So if this is interesting to you, discuss it with your partner. As I always say, use it as a jumping off point. Could we be having better interaction sexually that would make us both yearn to be close sexually, because then it's something good that we want that we're missing, versus these very rote, quick encounters. And many women will be very surprised to hear that men don't like the rote encounters, and men are surprised to hear that the women don't, because the woman's always telling them hurry up, because she's saying hurry up because she doesn't like it anyway. So of course she wants you to hurry up. Why wouldn't she? She doesn't feel she's going to get anything good out of it anyway. And both genders overestimate the other gender's need for just an orgasm. Just having an orgasm, you should be able to do that after you know each other for all these years. So giving each other an orgasm, cool, but that is not what I'm writing about and talking about when I'm talking about foreplay. Foreplay has nothing to do with an orgasm. In fact, the most erotic encounters of many people, particularly women's lives, do not involve an orgasm. Certainly not an orgasm after 3 minutes, So all the long, heavy petting sessions of youth were a lot more arousing for both parties, really, usually, than 3-minute sexual intercourse. So use this to talk to your spouse as per usual, and use it to reflect on your own expectations and assumptions and perhaps misapprehensions about sex in the opposite sex, as well as in relationships in general, etc., etc. And I will talk to everybody soon. Please do subscribe.